Hello there! As you know, if you have been watching this channel, that I like to share with you my latest Star Wars finds. But I also like to share with you my old finds. Welcome to Unboxing the Boxes, my Star Wars collection. This is episode 127, the Ultra figures of the 2004 Star Wars Saga Collection. The Ultra action figures of the Star Wars Saga Collection are really awesome. These figures and their accessories could really spark some playtime imagination. And the cost, especially by today's standards, was pretty reasonable. In fact, I would almost consider them to be a bargain compared to what they charge now for one of these things. But more about that later. Let's go through these 8 figures right after you hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. I have to admit that you have been helping to build this channel up lately when you subscribe and like the videos. I appreciate that. Thank you. Now, let's begin with this, shall we? Like I said, there are 8 figures of the Ultra series for the Saga Collection. And these figures are, well, they're actually pretty decent figures, but it's the accessories that really make these stand out. So let's get started and go through the first one here. And this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and this is the Kamino Confrontation figure. As you can see, he has got a pier or a pillar from Kamino. Let's take a look at this thing and see what it looks like. Well, as you can see, the figure of Obi-Wan is a pretty good figure, really. As far as movability goes, probably not so much. His legs look like they're pretty much stuck in that position, which makes sense because the robe is plastic. It is not flowable. He does come with his lightsaber, and you'll notice there with force push action. And if we look at the back of this, you can see when you push the column down that he will actually use the force to send the debris flying, or that little box that he comes with. There's a little hole in his hand, as you can see here, that somehow pushes this away from him. So, not bad. This is a really cool action figure. Oh, there's one other thing on the back here. As his confrontation with the mysterious Jango Fett escalates into an explosive battle on a rain-battered landing platform on the planet Kamino, Obi-Wan Kenobi uses the power of the Force to fend off the savage attacks of the bounty hunter. I think that'd be kind of cool if you open this up as a kid and play with it, and this thing would all of a sudden fly away from Obi-Wan. That would spur your imagination, I think, a little bit, don't you think? Now, imagine if you have this next piece with this piece. That could spur some pretty good battles, because the next piece is the Jango Fett Kamino Confrontation figure. While trying to escape to his waiting ship, Slave 1, Jango fights off the persistent Obi-Wan Kenobi on the Kamino landing platform. The tough and resilient bounty hunter uses his jetpack to take flight and attack his enemy from the air. And here again, he comes with a pillar. Very nice figure of Jango Fett. 2 blasters in his hand, ready to go. It looks like we do have movement at the hips with him and at the shoulders. So a lot more movement on this one than Obi-Wan had. But the big thing with this is the pillar again. If we look on the back, there is a little launch bay here. And if you use that to launch Jango Fett toward the pillar, there must be magnets or something, because he will stick to the pillar. Hey, between that and this, I think you could have some pretty serious playtime. So like I said, you put those 2 together, you've got a pretty decent Kamino playset. Don't you think? Well, let's move these 2 out of the way for just a moment, because we're going to leave Kamino now, and we're going to move to the planet Hoth. Because here we have General Rieekan, with his Hoth tactical screen. A battle-weary but capable commander, General Rieekan was the rebel officer in charge of Echo Base on Hoth. Rieekan had to make the difficult decision of evacuating the base that the men and women under his command had worked so hard to build. Born on Alderaan, he was off-planet inspecting a new satellite transmission system when the Death Star obliterated his home. How many of you knew the general was from Alderaan? Sometimes they've got a nice little bit of information on the back of these, don't you think? But as far as playability goes, we do have a nice figure of the general. Looks like he has movement at the shoulders. Yeah, he does have movement at the hip, so his legs can go forward and back, but nothing at the knees. So there again, a little less than what the vintage collection has nowadays, but still a nice accessory that you could use to play with, don't you think? Now, let's go from Hoth to Tatooine, because the next figure we have here is C-3PO with his escape pod. And this one is known as the Tatooine Escape. So I think this one, there's no R2-D2 with it, so you gotta get R2-D2 on your own. On the back it says, when Princess Leia's counselor vessel was attacked by an Imperial Star Destroyer, the fussy and worry-prone C-3PO was plunged into the center of a rebel battle. Fleeing the crippled vessel in an escape pod, the two droids landed on the desert planet Tatooine, where they fell into the hands of the Jawas and were hunted by Imperial stormtroopers. This is really kind of neat. Granted, it's not to scale, per se, of the movie version to the droids, but still, you had an escape pod that you could put C-3PO and R2-D2 in. And granted, I got a feeling it would be a pretty tight fit to get them both in there. But hey, who cares? You've got an escape pod for them. You can come up with your own adventures flying that around the house, don't you think? The next one we are going to go back to Hoth for a moment. I probably should have did this with the generals. But we're going to go back to Hoth, and this one is a heavy one. Why is it a heavy one? Because we got the Wampa on his Hoth cave. And as you can see with this one, it is a fairly good-sized figure. You put him next to C-3PO, there's a big difference between the two. What does it say on the back? It says, the bone-chilling cold is not the only danger that awaits the traveler on Hoth Plains. Despite standing over 2 meters in height, the Wampa ice creature is nevertheless a stealthy predator. Camouflaged by its white fur and the howling Hoth winds, a Wampa surprised Luke Skywalker while he was on patrol and dragged him to its cave as his next meal. When the Jedi freed himself, the Wampa found him and lost an arm in the struggle. So what do we have with this one, of course? As you could see while I was reading that, we have a piece of meat that he's eating. And we've got the ice column here that you can actually hang your Luke Skywalker on. And the final detail is his arm is detachable. So if you were playing with a Luke figure and the Wampa here, you could recreate that scene from the movie pretty well. At least in your imagination you could. This is a very cool figure. I like this one at all. Now, here's the key. This one has a price sticker on it. I don't know if you noticed that. $10.99. You can't even buy today's action figures, just the regular vintage collection. I'm not talking even deluxe or ultra figures, just the basic figure. Those things are like $12, $13 now for the basic ones. Here you get a whole playset basically for $11. And I looked online just to see what these cost when they came out in 2004. And I think it was rebelscum.com. Check that out sometime. I looked up these figures and it looked like most of these were $9.99 when they came out in retail. So why I paid $10.99 at Kmart, I'm not sure. They charged me $1 more than what they should have. Only 3 left to go. The next one, oh, I bet you so many kids would have been happy with this one, especially if they liked Return of the Jedi. Why? Because it's an Ewok with his attack glider. Yeah, you can imagine the amount of fun you'd have with this when you were a kid. And not only does he come with his glider, he's even got rock bombs here that he can drop on the people down below him, or the stormtroopers down below him, I should say. What does it say on the back for this one? Well, the Ewoks are sentient furred bipeds native to the moon of Endor. They cautiously accept into their tribe the rebel heroes Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, and Han Solo, who have come to Endor on a crucial mission against the Empire. The Ewoks use their primitive weapons and hang gliders to fell stormtroopers and attack scout walkers, helping to pave the way to victory at the Battle of Endor. Cool. I like the picture on the back here, kind of showing it in use. If I would have been a kid when this came out, I don't think this one would have stayed in the package. I think this would have had to come out and get played with, or at least set up in some sort of diorama or something. Too cool to pass up. Okay, we've all been to Jabba's palace, right? In the movies, Return of the Jedi, I remember going into Jabba. That's where Luke tried to rescue his friends and ended up almost getting sacrificed to the Sarlacc. Well, there were a few creatures in Jabba's palace that you could get with this particular set. Jabba's palace court denizens. In other words, some of the creatures in Jabba's palace. Jabba the Hutt's palace of crime was populated with a variety of individuals who all sought favor with the crime lord, including a Bamor monk, Bobo, who once ate a detonation bomb to save the Hutt from an assassination attempt, and Wal Kabashite, a giant mollusk that clings to the walls of the Hutt's audience chamber and explored newcomers with its prehensile tongue. So, I remember these. In fact, I've got the special edition one that you could mail in to get. In fact, I think I've got a couple of those. I even opened one of those. Of course, we got the little creature here, which would be Bobo. And there is the little mollusk with his long tongue. I don't remember seeing him in the movie, and I've seen that movie several times. Next time I see it, I'm going to have to watch to see where in the world he's located within that movie, within the palace. Imagine having this when you're trying to play that scene from Return of the Jedi. This would have really helped out your palace collection of creatures, don't you think? I have one left. Okay, we just talked about Jabba's palace, but it would be really good to have the main creature from Jabba's palace. Who's the main creature? Well, come on. If you don't know by now, you don't deserve to have this. This is Jabba the Hutt. And I mean, this is Jabba the Hutt. This is heavy. And once again, only $10.99. Too bad they're not around anymore. What does it say about Jabba the Hutt on the back? A loathsome slug of a gangster, Jabba the Hutt was preeminent crime lord in the Outer Rim territories. Basing his operations out of Tatooine, the Hutt had his pudgy fingers in a number of lucrative and unsavory rackets. This is kind of a nice setup. Not only do you get a Jabba the Hutt, once again, let's put C-3PO next to him. And you can see, this is a pretty good sized Jabba. Maybe not quite true to scale, but still pretty good. You've got him all the way out to his tail. And along with that, you've got a guardrail, and you've got his little container there that has the frogs that Jabba likes to eat. And I don't see any frogs in this one right offhand, but he does have one in his hand, if you noticed that when I was showing that. So there we have it. Which of these is your favorite? Do you have any of these of your collection? If not, these would be good ones to look up and see if you can find somewhere. Well, that's it for this video. Once again, I would invite you to like this video, leave a comment. I love reading the comments. And of course, subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell so you're notified when new videos come out. Until next time, may the Force be with you. Hey, and keep collecting.